I came to OU because everything is in it. I had lived many lives before. I had been a military officer, I had run a nonprofit, I had worked in corporate America, and I really wanted to go to a place where young people mattered. Young people are the future, as they say, and I wanted to be in a place where I could really impact young lives, impact the leadership progression and odyssey of young people. And corporate America was cool, it was great, but a place like OU allowed me an opportunity to do that in spades. And in addition, President Boren was so nice and accommodating to allow me to use many of my talents to work with students across the whole campus. So I like to say he kind of gave me a hunting license so I can interact with a lot of people. So that's why I came here. I love the students at OU. I say this after every class, and I mean it. I mean it, I mean it, I mean it. I really mean this. And that is, I'm a better husband and father because of the students I interact with. So by and far, they are the secret sauce, as my friend Daniel Pullen would say, who's also a vice president at OU, that makes it so special. My colleagues are also outstanding. President Boren's been a great mentor, but the students are the one that challenge you every day, make you see the world in a different light, and that's what's very special about this place. Teaching a class on leadership and looking at leadership and social entrepreneurship, for example, I had in my class a group of students that were instrumental in bringing SAG, Students Against Genocide, to OU. Which is working on the issue in Sudan. Now here's an issue that I thought was very, very compelling and very, very important, but I was thinking very linearly. I was thinking about very traditional methods of engaging students, of raising funds, as they mentioned that. They were so viral about it, the way they used the internet, the audacity they showed to link up with the East Coast and West Coast schools. It was really, really impressive just how forward-thinking and how non-linear they were in their thinking. And that has influenced me as I've done some of my nonprofit work and my work here at the university. So I would say that composite of my leadership in theory and practice class made me think differently about how nonprofits are run, how you can increase social capital, and how you can engage people. I have a nonprofit called the Impact Young Lives Foundation, or the IYL Foundation. Started in 2000. Our goal is to identify South African students of color from previously disadvantaged backgrounds, these are university students, and to transform them into globally minded citizens by bringing them to America for about a 2 or 3 week, what we call Expose, Enlighten, and Educate tour. We let them see leaders in civil society in America in action, so that when they go back to South Africa, they can be leaders in their own right, in their own civil society. We also provide them opportunities for mentorship and some access to scholarships as well. What's been really special is that working with the Provost, Nancy Mergler, with President David Boren, with Zach Machete, the Vice Provost for the International Program Center, we set up a program whereby 2 OU students each semester intern for the Impact Young Lives Foundation. So we've in essence embedded the nonprofit inside the university. We give students hands-on opportunity to learn not only about how to run a nonprofit, but how to run a global nonprofit. And also I teach them about the history of South Africa, a modern political history of South Africa, and they get very adroit in all things South African. And ultimately, of the 4 interns that we choose, the top intern actually accompanies my wife, Barbara Howard, who's an employee at the university as well, and also works for the nonprofit. They accompany her with the 5 to 10 students when they make their trip. Last year we were blessed that actually brought the students to OU and the East Coast, but also to the University of Oklahoma and Oklahoma City. It was outstanding. Leadership, in many ways, is the ultimate example of self-expression. So you can't be a great leader if you know what the heck you're all about. So I spend a lot of time doing that, using great text and great paragraphs and great books as a touchstone. Second off, once you sort of figure out who you are and how you fit into this world, it's so important to express that to others, to interact with others, to kind of bring that to fruition. The other thing I always talk about is this idea of a leadership odyssey. It's a process to become a leader. It happens over time. It's almost like Odysseus fighting in the Iliad and the Trojan War and coming all the way back to Ithaca to be with Penelope and to be with Telemachus. It's an odyssey. So I use terms like, this is your leadership odyssey. Let us go through it together. And the other point I'd make is in my leadership in theory and practice course, I say, here we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to say, what do the leadership theorists say? And so we're going to look at the great writers in leadership theory, Ronald Heifetz and Warren Bennis and John Cotter. We're We're going to understand how they formulate leadership theory. Then we're going to look at leadership in business. We're going to look at it in government. We're going to look at it in science, technology. We're going to look at it in medicine. So no matter what area you're going to go into in civil society, we're going to look at leadership in that sector, figure out if a leadership in practice, does that conform to leadership in theory? And then can one area of leadership tell us something about leadership in another area? What I mean by that is, if you're a leader in business, what do you learn about leadership in the military? What can leadership in military learn from leadership in sports, et cetera, et cetera? The last piece is, because it's practice, I always bring in guest speakers. People that have been there, done that, right? So you have this theoretical framework, you have emphasis on these different parts of civil society, business, education, et cetera, but then you also always bring in folks that have sat in your seat. That's the best part, is when you can bring a student who used to sit right there and bring him or her out, and they can talk about their odyssey and what they learned. I can't tell you about my leadership experience in the Air Force because it's all top secret. No, I'm just kidding. I'll tell you about my leadership experience in the Air Force. I'm happy to do this. The military is one of the best leadership laboratories out there. Air Force being, par excellence in terms of from day one, the day you step into. I went to the Air Force Academy, and from the day you step on the campus, the day you don your uniform, you're expected to go on this leadership odyssey, this march. It teaches you discipline. It teaches you, most importantly, a sense of purpose, teamwork, and they do a great job also teaching you how to be the leader in the next rung on the ladder. So while you're learning as a lieutenant, they're teaching you how to be a captain. While you're learning as a captain, they're teaching you how to be a major. Also, what's important, what's interesting coming from as a semi-intellectual here in the university setting, is that the military doesn't necessarily know which skills, technical or more qualitative, is going to take to be successful. So they spend a lot of time making you sort of a jack of all trades. You have to understand moral philosophy and psychology, but you have to understand how jets work or how helicopters work or what have you. I happen to have been a helicopter pilot and an intelligence officer. I'm currently a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Air Force Reserve, and I'm what you call a military attaché. So I'm a military diplomat. So I go and spend 2 weeks every summer in Monrovia, Liberia, working out of the embassy. In the military, and the last thing I would say is, in terms of a leadership laboratory, you can do everything in the military because they need people that fly aircraft, drive ships, that are intelligence, that teach, that are diplomats, etc. So it's been a wonderful odyssey for me, and it's great as I interact with students because I've had so many rich life experience. I can share those with those individuals. We have to recognize that young people, millennials, people in this generation, have more options than people that came before, and that's tough. That's tough. I have students that come in my office. On one day they tell me they want to be a lawyer. The next day they tell me they want to be a doctor. Then they say they want to be an engineer. Then they say they want to run a nonprofit. And then they say they want to do it all at the same time. And they can almost literally do that. So it can be, I want to set the framework. So then I say, with that in mind, the first thing you should try to do is pursue your passions. If you're passionate about something, you're going to probably be better at it. And even if you're equal with somebody else or not quite as good at it, you'll do better because you're passionate about it. If you're not passionate about anything, follow your interests. Pursue your interests. If you kind of like something, typically hew toward that space and that place, and you'll probably be more successful. If you're not passionate, nor are you interested in something, you should go to your strengths. Because if you're doing something you're good at, right, you're going to be somewhat successful, and then while you're doing all that, you can figure out your passions and your interests and move that way, and hopefully those things come together. And finally, if you're not passionate, nor interested, nor do you have a strength, then keep your options open. If you make a decision in your life in terms of your major or your graduate school or professional school experience or your work experiences, some things leave more options open than others. Right? And if the first three don't hit for you, again, passion, interest, or strengths, it's great to keep your options open. And the final thing I say is, the final two things are this. You can have it all, but you might not be able to have it all at one time. You have to sequence your life. I mean, sometimes when you have your family, then family is maybe more important, and you have your own career and you're by yourself, maybe that's more important. But you can sequence. People move from for-profit to non-profit. They move from corporate to higher education. I'm not saying it's always easy, but you can have it all, but maybe you can't have it all at the same time. And finally, breathe. Breathe deeply. Enjoy the moment. because the next moment is not promised. On December 19th, I was named the 24th president of Hampton-Sydney College, which is about 45 minutes outside of Richmond, Virginia. It's a small liberal arts college, been around for over 225 years. It's actually the 10th oldest college in America. And it's a real honor, and I would never have had that opportunity but for the great opportunities and work I've been able to do at the University of Oklahoma. University of Oklahoma made all of this possible, and I'm eternally grateful to my colleagues and to the students that helped me grow as a leader, administrative professor here at OU. I have taken a page out of the book of many of my colleagues, and first and foremost President Bourne, in terms of everything from OU cousins to the presidential associates, and I'm going to bring some of those specific Sooner ideas over to Hampton-Sydney. I look forward to being someone who helps people get their ticket to the American dream.